Good morning, students. Uh, how are you all doing today? I hope you all are safe and healthy at your home. Well, student, in today's session, we are moving on to your first book again, Beehive, and we are going to take up the third chapter, The Little Girl. And before we begin with the chapter explanation, students, I hope the chapters that you have received so far are clear for you, and you are simultaneously also maintaining your copies. And yes, and in case if you still have any queries, so please go through the videos again so that you can understand the chapter as well. Okay, so let's start with today's chapter. As you can see on the screen, the chapter is third chapter of Beehive, and the name of the chapter is The Little Girl. Yes, students, it's a very interesting story. It's a story, as the title of the chapter goes, The Little Girl. It's a story about a little girl and about her family and about her reaction, about her feeling and reaction towards her parents. Okay, so let's begin with the reading. To the little girl, he was a figure to be feared and avoided. Every morning before going to work, he came into the room and gave her a casual kiss, to which she responded with "Goodbye, father." And oh, there was a glad sense of relief when she heard the noise of the carriage growing fainter and fainter down the long road. So, the meaning in this paragraph, the beginning, the starting introduction paragraph, is that yes, the little girl, she was very afraid of her father, and every morning they had a routine that father, before going to work, he used to come into the girl's room and he used to give her a casual kiss, that is kind of a goodbye kiss, and she would respond to the father's kiss by saying "Goodbye, father," and she used to get a relief when she used to hear the carriage growing fainter and fainter. This line means that when the father used to go to the work, he used to go in the carriage. Okay, so we can understand from this line that the chapter, yes, the chapter is staged in the olden times when people were using carriages. So the moment the father left home and sat in the carriage, and the carriage noise became fainter, fainter and fainter. This means that when the carriage began to drive and it used to go far and far from away from the home, so she would be relaxed that her father has gone to the work. In the evening, when he came home, she stood near the staircase and heard his loud voice in the hall, "Bring my tea into the drawing room. Hasn't the papers come yet? Mother, go and see if papers out there, and bring me my slipper." So in the evening when the father returned, so this is the routine, he would scream for the tea, cup of tea, and mother would call the little girl and tell her to get the newspaper for her father and also to bring the slippers. Okay. Paragraph 2. Kezia, mother would call to her, "If you are a good girl, you can come down and take off father's boots." Slowly the girl would slip down the stair. Slip down, here the meaning is given, come down quickly, but unwillingly. Okay. More slowly, still across the hall, and push open the drawing room door. By the time he had his spectacles on and looked at her over them in a way that was terrifying to the little girl. "Well, Kezia, hurry up and pull off those boots and take them outside. Have you been a good girl today?" "I don't know, father." So when Kezia's mother would call Kezia to come and see her father in the evening, so when she used to reach the drawing room, what the scene she used to see is that the father would have his spectacles on his eyes and through them he would give her a very terrifying, means a very scary kind of a look. And she was very scared from her father. So father would order her to take off my boots and keep them outside, and he used to ask her whether were you a good girl today or not. So yes, students, let's go over to the next page. Now, yes, you don't know, if you stutter like that, mother will have to take you to the doctor. Now, stutter here means to stammer. Uh, Stammer means to talk in a very slow way and not being able to speak out the words clearly. Okay, so that means stutter or stammer. They have both the same meanings. She never stuttered with other people, had quite given it up. Given it up means she must have had the habit, but now she was improving, and she was improving, but only in front of her father she would still stammer, but only with father, because then she was trying so hard to say the words properly. What's the matter? What are you looking so wrecked about? Wrecked again, unhappy or being scared. Mother, I wish you taught this child not to appear on the brink of suicide. Again, students, this is a phrase, on brink of suicide. The meaning is given, about to commit suicide. Here, Kezia, carry my teacup back to the table carefully. He was so big, his hands and his neck, especially his mouth, when he yawned, thinking about him alone, was like thinking about a giant. So this is the father's description given in the paragraph 3, and how she felt about her father and how father behaved with the child. He was a bit, I would say, strict with the girl, so that is the reason why she was afraid of him. Paragraph 4. On Sunday afternoons, grandmother sent her down to the drawing room to have a nice talk with father and mother. But the little girl always found mother reading and father stretched out on the sofa, his handkerchief on his face, his feet on one of the best cushions, sleeping soundly and snoring. So on Sundays, this was the routine. Grandmother was there, so she used to tell Kezia that you can go downstairs and go and spend some time with your parents. But what was the routine of the parents? The mother would be busy in her reading or doing something, and father would be lying on the sofa and sleeping soundly. So we end the page here. Let's proceed to the next page, carrying on with the same paragraph. She sat on a stool, gravely watched him until he woke and stretched, and asked the time, then looked at her. Don't stare so, Kezia. You look like a little brown owl. Now again, this is a phrase, little brown owl, again means to be afraid of. One day, when she was kept indoors with cold, her grandmother told her father's birthday was next week, and suggested she should make him a pin cushion for a gift out of a beautiful piece of yellow silk. So yes, so one fine morning, grandmother told Kezia that your father's birthday is coming, and maybe you can make some gift for him. So, and she also gave him the idea. So paragraph 5, and I hope students you all are with me. We are on page 34. Laboriously means with great difficulty and with great hard work. With the double cotton, the little girl stitched 3 sides, but what to fill it with? That was the question. The grandmother was out in the garden, and she wandered into mother's bedroom to look for scraps. Scrap means waste material. On the bed table, she discovered many sheets of fine paper, gathered them up, tore them into tiny pieces, and stuffed her case, then sewed up the 4th side. That night was a hue and cry in the house. Hue and cry means, yes, with great protest and yes, angry scene in the house. Father's great speech for port authority had been lost. Rooms were searched, servants questioned. Finally, mother came into Kezia's room. Kezia, I suppose you didn't see some papers on the table in your room? In our room? Oh, yes, she said. I tore them up, and for my surprise, I tore them up for my surprise. What? Screamed mother. Come straight down to the dining room this instant. So in this paragraph, students, there is a again a scene. A scene is that yes, Kezia was she was trying to make a birthday gift for her father, and there was no one around to guide her, and she wanted to stuff something inside the pillow that she was making. So as she could not find anything, so she found some papers in her parents' room. She tore those papers into bits, pieces, and she filled the paper inside the cushion. So she landed up into a big trouble because actually that those papers were actually speech which the father had prepared, and now those are all torn away. So paragraph 6, and she was dragged down to where father was pacing to and fro. Pacing to and fro means walking up and down in the room, hands behind his back. Well, he said sharply. Mother explained. He stopped and stared at the child. Did you do that? No, no, she whispered. Mother, go up to her room and fetch down the damn thing. See that the child's put to bed this instant. So the father got to know he was very angry, and he told the mother that take her back to her room and make sure that she sleeps. She is put to bed and she goes to sleep instantly. Okay, so yes, students, now we are proceeding to the page 35. I hope you all are with me and you are following the chapter. So page 35, yes, paragraph 7. Crying too much to explain, she lay in the shadowed room watching the evening light make a sad little pattern on the floor. Then father came into the room with the ruler in his hand. I'm going to beat you for this, he said. Oh, no, no, she screamed, hiding under the bedclothes. He pulled him aside. Sit up, he ordered, and hold out your hands. You must be taught once and for all not to touch what does not belong to you. But it was for your birthday. Down came the ruler on her little pink palms. So, see, students, the father, in this case, the father is being too strict. He is not even, listening to the reason the young child is trying to give, and he hits the child with the ruler on her little palms. Paragraph 8. Hours later, when grandmother had wrapped her in a shawl and rocked her in the rocking chair, the child clung to her soft body. So when the grandmother saw her crying, so grandmother must have taken her, wrapped a shawl around her, and taken her into her laps, and she clung means held the grandmother very tightly, and she fell asleep. What did God make fathers for? Okay, so she's asking her grandmother this. She sobbed means she was crying. Here's a clean hanky, darling. Blow your nose. Go to sleep, pet. You will forget all about it in the morning. I tried to explain, father, but he was too upset to listen tonight. But the child never forgot. Next time she saw him, she quickly put both the hands behind her back, and a red color flew into her cheeks. So she got so scared from this incident that she did not go in front of her father. And even when she saw him, she quickly hid her hands behind herself, and she was so scared that her cheeks turned red. Paragraph 9. The McDonalds lived next door. They had 5 children. Looking through a gap in the fence, the little girl saw them playing tag in the evening. So tag is a kind of a game, yes, even which you might have played with your friends during your childhood days. That is to catch each other. Okay. The father with the baby, Mao on his shoulders, two little girls hanging on to his coat pocket, ran round and round on the flower beds, shaking with laughter. Once she saw the boys turn the hose on him, and he tried to catch them, laughing all the time. Then it was she decided then it was she decided there were different sort of fathers. Suddenly one day mother became ill and she and grandmother went to hospital. So till here, students, what happens is they are also talking about the neighbors, Mr. McDonald. You need to remember the name because this can come as a short question. So Mr. McDonald was their neighbor, and what Kezia saw, the scene of the father, Mr. McDonald, with his kids was completely different than the kind of behavior that she used to get from her parents, for her father. So here we can see that Mr. McDonald is very playful with the children. He's running here and there with his children, and the children once the children opened the hose, means opened the pipe, the water, and the water was sprinkling all over the lawn, and still father was not angry and he was running behind his children. Okay. And then all of a sudden, now there comes a twist in the story, that one day when mother fell ill, so she was taken to the hospital. So mother and grandmother both go to the hospital. So that leaves Kezia and her father at home. Okay, so let's see now how it turns out. The little girl was left alone in the house with Alice, the cook. That was all right in the daytime. So it was Alice, the cook, and the father and Kezia. So during the daytime, Kezia was fine. She did not find it very difficult. Moving on to the page 36. So yeah, students, you can see the picture. You can see how Kezia is watching through the fence, and she can see that how Mr. McDonald is playing with the children. Coming back to your chapter reading. But while Alice was putting her to bed, she grew suddenly afraid. So Alice went to tuck Kezia into the bed, means Alice took Kezia to sleep to her room so that she can sleep. But since Kezia was alone today, so she was feeling very scared. Paragraph 10. What all I do if I have a nightmare? What will I do if I have a nightmare? So Kezia is asking Alice, the cook. She asked, I often have nightmares, and then Granny takes me into her bed. I can't stay in the dark. It all gets whispery. Okay, whispery here means, yes, as she's a very small girl, so when she gets bad dreams, so she feels that yes, there are scary sounds in the house or in her room. You just go to sleep, child, said Alice, pulling off her socks, and don't you scream and wake your poor pa. So Alice is also telling the Kezia that yes, don't worry, you will not have any nightmare. You go to sleep, and even if you're scared, don't scream, okay? Because your father also has to take some rest. Now moving on to page 37. But the same old nightmare came. The butcher with a knife. Now butcher again, students, I hope you know butcher. Butcher is a person who chops the animals, okay, who sells the flesh or the meat of the animals. That person is called a butcher. So what she sees in the nightmare is a butcher with a knife and a rope, who came nearer and nearer, smiling that dreadful smile, while she could not move, could only stand still, crying out, Grandma, Grandma. She woke shivering to see father beside her bed, a candle in his hand. What's the matter? He said. So the same thing happens again, students. Kezia gets the same nightmare about a butcher coming and trying to hurt her. but and Kezia started screaming, "Grandma, grandma!" But all of a sudden, what she notices is father is there beside her, and he's holding a candle in his hand, and he's asking what happened. So paragraph 11. "Oh, a butcher, a knife! I want granny." He blew out the candle, bent down, and caught up the girl child in his arms, carrying her along the passage to the big bedroom. A newspaper was on the bed. He put away the paper, then carefully tucked up the child. Tucked up means he put Kezia into the bed and covered her with the blanket. He lay down beside her, half asleep still, uh, still with Butcher's smile all about her, it seemed. She crept close to him, snuggled again, the meaning is given, to feel warm and comfortable when you're sleeping with your parents. Her head under his arm, held tightly to his shirt. Then the dark did not matter. She lay still. "Here, rub your feet against my legs and it get them warm," said father. So father also noticed that yes, she was very scared. So this time now she gets to see a very different attitude of her father. The father carefully takes her into his room and covers her with blankets, and he's also telling her to warm the feet against rubbing his legs. Okay. And yes, students, last paragraph 12. Tired out, he slept before the girl. A funny feeling came over her. Poor father, not so big, after all, and with no one to look after him. He was harder than grandmother, but it was nice hardness. And every day, but it was nice hardness. And every day he had to work and was too tired to be Mr. McDonald. She had torn up all his beautiful writing. She stirred suddenly and signed. "What's the matter?" asked her father. "Another dream?" "Oh," said the little girl, "my head's on your heart. I can hear it going. What a big heart you have, father dear." So this, in this paragraph, so finally she experiences a very warm part of her father's nature, and she enjoys it, she likes it, and she feels sorry for her father because the mother is not there, grandmother is not there to look after her. And she also understands now that yes, father cannot be like Mr. McDonald because he has to work so hard and he's tired, so he cannot play with Kezia. At the same time, when she's sleeping on her father's chest, so she can hear the heartbeat, and then father again feels that maybe she's feeling scared. But this time Kezia says, "No, I'm just listening to your heart, father. It's very big." Now the phrase of saying big heart, that means she's actually trying to describe, or she's trying to say that yes, father, even you have a big heart, means even you are very kind. Okay, students. So with this we end the chapter here. The chapter is written by, you can see, Catherine Mansfield. Okay, students. So students, we end the session here today. I hope you enjoyed the story, and yes, along with this video you will also be receiving the PDF file, like it's always sent to you. It will have the question answers, and yes, you need to note down those question answers, specifically the ones which I'm going to mention. So only write down those question answers, copy them in your copies. Others you keep them as with you as a record, so that you it's just for your extra practice. Okay, students, so we'll meet in the next session with another chapter. Till then, all of you keep revising your chapters, and yes, stay safe and stay healthy at home.